What's up, Starcraft fans? Today we're doing the tier list for Diplomatic Immunity on Oblivion Express. Brian, let's hear the invitation.
Oblivion Express is the map where we have to destroy trains. They come in from the west, mainly along 2 tracks, and we have to destroy 9 of them to win the game. If we miss more than 1 train on brutal difficulty, we lose the game. Half of all units, including the trains, is invulnerable to you, the other half to your ally. They also, when first taking damage, blink and gain a 100 health shield.
So we have Eviling and Zero in the Cobra state. How are you guys?
Fine.
Alright.
Sleepy.
Sorry, I apologize. So Eviling, how will we rank the commanders this week?
So commanders, Polarity, I'm just gonna come out and say it, or Polarity, due to the dynamics of it. I'm not gonna rate anyone S for this because they can help. There are certain commanders that can help a lot to survive Polarity, but it still depends upon your ally. So yeah, Evasive Maneuvers, so Polarity, if your commander can help your ally to survive and help them to take out their part of the stuff, then it's gonna help them with their score for sure. Evasive Maneuvers, the problem with that is you gotta have commanders that have good fire rates or hit scans. That's gonna enable you to take down the enemies quicker. If they have too many things with slow fire rates, that's gonna hurt them. Barrier, they gotta hit hard and get through those barriers quickly. Good thing is, at least we're not dealing with just die plus Polarity. So you just gotta take out the trains once, but due to Polarity, you or your ally are gonna have to take down 1 train on your own with a barrier. So you gotta have firepower to bring to that, and so that's also gonna determine your score.
Yes. How about you, Zero?
The Polarity is the main problem here. I do have S tiers unlike Eveling, but I guess we're not having any of those. But yeah, Evasive Maneuvers is the second biggest issue, so commanders with projectiles will be lowered slightly lower than the usual.
Alright, let's begin. Abathur, where do we have him?
Abathur, he's well known for being tanky. Mend is going to help out a lot with your ally. And then the main thing is powering up. So if the first train is yours, that might be a little tricky business. You're going to have to farm up your biomass quickly. If you're going with P2, yeah, you're going to have 1 swarm host that might be close to max biomass. If that's going to be enough to take out the train, hopefully make use of your toxic nest to add to the to supplement damage. Definitely don't dedicate all your toxic nest to deal with the first train, but yeah, just try to wait out. Is like if the train is starting to get away, then just dump them all and try to take that out, because you don't want to miss that first train. You can, for Abathur, A to B, you could try P1. You could try P1, but that's also kind of a tricky thing to do. If you can get to the point where you got full biomass mutas, or they can rip apart a train pretty nicely. So, yep.
Okay, how about you, Zero?
I also have him in B. His early game is very weak, and because of Evasive Maneuvers, he can't just go pure Ravager. So I'd say his best option is to go like Swarm Hosts and then add like 5 Ravagers for the train DPS, because Swarm Hosts aren't that great at that. But yeah, after you get past the early game, I think he's really good. It's just getting there is the issue. So which is why he's in B.
Okay, both of you say B, so let's put him in B. Prestige-wise, you want the second prestige or the first one?
I think so. P2.
Alright, that's fair.
Anything but the third prestige.
That's true. Let's move on. Alarak, where do we have him?
Alarak, so his army isn't very tanky, so he won't be tanking a lot for his ally, although he has a great amount of crowd control with the hero unit itself, and the Ascendants are just able to wipe your half of the wave very quickly and don't struggle with train damage also. So you won't be supporting your ally also, but your enemies also won't be a hindrance to them. So it kind of evens out. I have him in B, maybe A.
B,
Personally.
maybe A. Okay. How about you, Eviling?
I have Alarak from A to B. Prestige 3, you're gonna have a lot of hit scan, so that will help deal with evasive maneuvers and essentially whittle down the barrier pretty quickly. It's just a matter of surviving your allies' stuff to make sure they don't just completely destroy your death fleet. Yeah, the main thing is like if you've dealt with all your stuff and then you got your allies stuff essentially picking away at your guys, make use of Alarak and use destruction wave, and it's like, here you go, ally, here's your stuff, let me nudge it closer toward your base. Okay, now it's your problem, deal with it, please.
Yeah. I guess another nice thing about Alarak is he can just overcharge when he can't physically be at his ally and his ally needs help. But then again, sometimes the polarity. I don't know if this has been fixed. I think this was attempted to be fixed. I don't know if the attempt worked. Sometimes before the Tangar craft fixes, the overcharge would shoot polarized units, so it doesn't actually deal any damage, and it would waste the top bar. I'm not sure if it has been fixed, and I'd rather not find out personally. Yeah?
I remember it did get fixed.
It did get fixed. That's fantastic. Okay, so are we doing A or B? Because both of you said A or B.
I'm leaning towards B.
What do you think,
Yeah,
Eviling?
let's go with B.
Okay, let's go with B.
I'm
Prestige wise, you want the third one, right? Shadow of Death?
Yes.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Let's move on. Arcturus, where do we have him?
Arcturus, Oblivion Express is pretty much his map. It's just it's going to be a little annoying with all the evasive maneuvers, especially if it gets close to your ESOs. The evasive maneuvers will pull them in, so you got to make sure you protect your ESOs accordingly, and also same thing goes for your ally. But the real nice thing that Arcturus has is Contaminated Strike. He can freeze attack waves. He can't freeze the train escort waves because they're kind of locked in with the train. But you can fear them, and that will definitely buy you enough time just to concentrate, for you or your ally to concentrate on the trains. And dude, it's not going to be, it's definitely not going to be a walk in the park just because of polarity. Usually Arcturus would be S on this, but A to B. And then you can make use of any prestige on this. It's going to be, Arcturus is definitely going to be able to pull his own weight. It kind of comes down to, are you doing enough to enable your ally to pull their weight too?
Okay, that's fair. How about you, Zero?
58. Remember that number. So
Yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yes. That's if anyone doesn't know, that's the number you
timing.
have to shoot your contaminated strike at to hit all the waves on this map.
Okay.
So
Do you remember all the wave timings though?
Yeah, you have to remember timings.
3:58, but you can't really do that one. Second one is 6 minutes, so 5:58, and then 6:58 on back at the northwest one. And then the next one after that is, I think, 10, so 9:58. Yeah, you have to remember all the timings and all the locations of attack waves so that you can properly time your contaminated strike. Continue.
So with that, you won't really have to fight any waves outside of the first two ones.
Yeah.
That come from top left. Your ally also won't really be dealing with enemies that come from your train escorts because they'll also just get contaminated striked. With P1, you will make your ally deal 25% extra damage to everything, even if it's his polarity. You can also just make enemies dance around with contaminated strike because you'll be spamming that all game.
Yes.
I have him S tier personally, just because he supports a crazy amount. He's one of the few commanders that actually reduces the amount of enemies your ally has to fight, even with Polarity. So
Absolutely.
yeah,
Now
I
the
think he's
question
just so good.
is
He deserves S. He's one of the 4 I have in S.
4. That's a lot. The question is, Eveling, do you agree?
No, as I said, Polarity. I'm not. It's really dependent upon allies. So you're not gonna do S, but if it, yeah, Zero. Not to knock you or anything, but yeah, I completely agree with you. I do also have 4 commanders. If I wasn't bullheaded about this, my stance on no S's for Polarity Week, then I would agree. Yeah, I know what 4 you're gonna pick. Yep.
Okay.
Quite right.
Okay, not the Animus, therefore not S. So Arcturus and A, right?
Yes.
Okay. You
Yep,
want to use Earth
absolutely.
Splitters here. If you want to use Contaminated Strike a lot, which you should, to stop the enemies from becoming a thing, you should use Toxic Tyrant. But for the spooky boys, you definitely need to have static defense on all ramps. If you're up against Terran, you can't Contaminated Strike all the spooky boys. You need static defense on the ramps, and that goes for every commander. Let's move on. Artanis, where do we have him?
Artanis. He isn't very good here. Evasive Maneuvers already screw him enough. He's one of the few commanders that actually struggles to barrier because he just doesn't have DPS. He can't kill trains very fast. Yeah, he can't tag because he won't really have shield overcharge for every single engagement. Yeah, he isn't very good. I have him like D to C.
D to C. How about you, Eveling?
I have Artanis from B to C. So I definitely thought about D, but after seeing your run with Age with using Raynor, and I mean how much mileage you got out of Guardian Shell to make that happen, I was like, okay, maybe not as bad. I would suggest Prestige non P3 for this. So you do have a Guardian Shell available for that. Definitely Goons, the usual for Artanis, is going to hurt again, as the points that Zero made are completely legitimate. It's Evasive Maneuvers definitely hurts Artanis, but just to slow fire rate, and you're just gonna have stuff bouncing around. And the other thing about Evasive Maneuvers, every time they bounce, they gain a little damage reduction. So it's with that low fire rate of just, if you're just doing just goons, then you're just gonna be having to deal with more damage reduction
Yes.
rather than just constantly whittling it down. Now, my suggestion for P1 or P2 Artanis, P1 goons have a crappy fire rate. Immortals, not too bad of a fire rate. So P1 definitely helps Immortals out, because what they do on P1 for Immortals, their shell triggers more often, as long
Barrier.
as you
Yeah.
the barrier. So just like using, I mean, Amon gets barrier, might as well have a good barrier on yourself. So
True.
pump out Immortals. And then this can be somewhat of a hot take, but depending on how much incoming fire you're dealing with, you could use Phoenixes too. And then because of P1, they help disable a lot of the ground units. Now, the caveat to that is you got to make sure you have enough damage to deal with the trains, because Phoenixes are not going to contribute any damage to the trains. But if you do have the resources available, you can pump out Tempest along with that. The good thing about Tempest is their disintegration. It's one of the few instances. So disintegration for Tempest, you can't stack disintegration on regular units. Only the train is a special one because you can stack it upon every different car. So if you get this disintegration going on at least 5 to 6 different carts, that adds up pretty quickly in terms of the in order to bring down the train. And then P2, just making use of the power field movement that can definitely enhance your
The stim.
damage output significantly.
Okay, so two things. Number one, it may be skewed to make Raynor and Artanis look good because me and Twotuuu are on the voice chat, so we're definitely on the same page. So maybe the view. Also, Raynor has an unusually good synergy with Garden Shell. Raynor in particular has an unusual synergy with Garden Shell. Also, guys like Zagara have an unusually good synergy with Garden Shell. So I'm not sure how well the Garden Shell point actually stands if you're on the solo queue.
Mm-hmm.
And second one, what do you think, Zero? Do you agree with B to C?
Yeah, I said the C to D, so C is fine for me.
Yeah, we converge on C.
All right, both of you say C, so let's put Artanis in C. Dehaka, where do we have him?
He has very good firepower with P2. P3, you could definitely utilize. You got 2 Dehakas, and you got 2 sets of roars, so that can definitely help mitigate the amount of damage that you and your ally are taking, and buy time for your ally to get something going. And then the eat is nice for kind of clearing out stuff for your polarity. You could also try P1. It's buffing your ally, so that could be advantageous if played right. I have Dehaka from A to B.
All right, just to be clear, guys, you have double the spells, not double the slap. So if you have 2 Dehakas, don't send both of them to the rocks, please.
Mm-hmm.
How about you, Zero?
I have him in A. You can go for, I think, either of the 3 prestiges. All of 3 have their strengths. He has very good train DPS with impalers. I assume you're just gonna mix units here. Like, a good portion of your army will be something that deals with the comp pretty well, and then just have like a squad of impalers for the train, just so you can move with your ally instead of having to just face slap the train
Yeah,
with all your units.
yeah.
Yeah, he can debuff the enemies and buff your ally if you're P1, so he has good support. He can tank a lot with his pack leaders, even more if you pick P2. Yeah, I have him in A tier.
Okay, both of you agree with A?
Yeah.
Okay, let's put Dehaka in A. And like we said, the prestige is fine, whichever one you are good at. Fenix, where do we have him?
He has very good DPS at least. I guess he can tank a decent amount because his champions are just very cheap. Yeah, he's not affected too much by the 2 other mutators. Skaldaus will get like slightly affected by evasive maneuvers, but it really doesn't matter for him. The enemies aren't buffed too much, so he'll still just slap everything to death if it's on the ground. And the rest of your champions, except Taldarin, will handle air if you get an air comp. I have him in A tier personally.
Okay. How about you, Eviling?
Yeah, all good points. I have Phoenix from A to B. I just want to add, conservators are fantastic for reducing
Yes.
incoming damage for you and ally. And
For
then
you.
worst case is
Yeah.
the other cases if there's a bunch of polarized units for your ally and he doesn't have anything to deal with it, bring down the arbiter suit, stasis that, buy your ally some time,
Or
and
just
then
force your ally to be
if your
there.
ally, yeah, and force your ally to be there. So yeah, there's a lot of control that he can do to the ally to put him into the right position or buy him the appropriate amount of time to deal with his units. So definitely A to B. In fact, if I didn't have my bullheadedness, I would be somewhat inclined to put him to S.
Okay.
So, any prestige can work on this. P2 is good. P1, I mean, Dragoon suit. on P1 can pretty much just take down the train on its own. So yeah.
Okay, so both of you agree with A?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Prestige wise, like you said, anything, whichever you're good at will be fine. Still leaning toward the second one though. Second one's really good. Let's move on. Han and Horner. Where do we have them?
Han and Horner, not that great in terms of being able to tanking until the Horner units come out. But even if you want to go with like P2, you still should be making some Han units, specifically Widow Mines, in order to use the significant other bonuses to make them more tanky. Definitely one thing I guess most people will kind of forego and not really think about for Han units, the the Hellbats. They have. I mean, we talked about Arcturus and Fear. Han and Horner also have Fear. So
Yeah.
definitely make use of that. That will definitely help reduce the amount of incoming damage because even if the unit is not polarized for you, if they get caught in the Fear Blast when the Hellbats die, they will still get feared. So like all CC is still fair game as long as it can hit the area. So yeah, I have Han and Horner from B to C. I would definitely suggest P2 because that's going to allow you to get your Horner units out. I mean, it'd be great if you can tech up to your Sovereign BCs. They got good DPS out, especially when you're combining them with your Hellions with the stim, and so you got the mini models going off, and then you got the Hellbats triggering the fear in order to kind of keep the heat off of your more expensive Horner units and your ally.
Okay. How about you, Zero?
I have him in C tier. I think you're just gonna go P1 here and spam Reapers. I would go P2, but Evasive Maneuvers just kind of screws those guys over.
That's true.
What Eveling said about the fear, yeah, it will help a lot. Yeah, they can't tank unless you use the invincible unit bug, in which case I think they're really good, but the setup is pretty hard.
It's pretty hard and very not
Yeah.
worth it.
I mean, if you're consistent at it, it is worth it. It's just really hard.
Yeah. Okay,
I have
fine.
it in C tier.
Okay, both of you are fine with C. Let's put Han and Horner in C. Prestige wise, you can use either one, either the first one or the third one. Let's move on. Karax, where do we have him?
Karax. So his units are very tanky. I assume you're just gonna go P2 here, just because you don't really want static defense, because your ally isn't always guaranteed to fight where you place your static. As for his units, they're actually quite good. The Zealots, and I assume you're just gonna go like, I guess, carriers on top with energizers. They tank a lot. The energizers will buff your ally, which will make him do a lot of DPS, and you won't really have to worry about him dying because your Zealot will just be tanking pretty much everything. The train DPS could be somewhat of an issue, so maybe you could go like Immortal instead of Carrier, depending on what the composition is. But yeah, the support he provides is really good. He can also fight. Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe Ghosts can be an issue if you go P2, but even then, you should be able to just Orbital Strike him. So I have him in B tier, possibly A.
B. Okay, how about you, Evoling?
I have Karax from A to B, and he pretty much any prestige you can make work. Different play style. P2 is a fun one, but if you really hard pressed to you get frustrated and you want to get the map done, I would definitely suggest P1 or P3. Maybe more leaning toward P1 because usually I find on random queue most P1 Karax players that play Oblivion Express, they all know just
They all
start
know what to do.
stacking up all
The
they all know
monoliths.
start stacking up the monolith. Yep. And then maybe just a few cannons in between there, just so that you have detection all around, especially if you got Terran. You want to have that detection for the nukes. And then when the trains come by, especially the double train, you just turn on Chrono Surge and it's like, okay, all my stuff's dead. Ally, go take care of your stuff. I got enough shield batteries around that they'll
keep
whack my
alive.
cannons, but I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. So yeah, it's pretty standard as long as you're not fighting with your ally on real estate space on that main plateau where your mains are.
Yeah. I actually had Karax in A for the reasons you said, but both of you said B, so let's put Karax in B. Not my call. Prestige wise, you want the second? You guys suggesting the second one?
I guess I was overestimating how incompetent the ally can be. I guess there's a limit that if your ally is just incompetent enough and doesn't fight with your static, then you're gonna lose anyway. So yeah, I
mean,
guess the tower prestiges are also fine.
there's certain expectation
That
of a baseline level of competence because, for example, you can't really assume that an ally who would fail with Karax would succeed with Phoenix. I don't see it happening because Phoenix
that made
polarity is
my
still a
day,
thing.
Zero.
Yeah.
That line made my day. It's like I underestimated the incompetence of ally.
Or maybe overestimated incompetence. Maybe we had it the other way around. Overestimated the incompetence. Anyway, yeah, it doesn't matter. Both of you said B. That's what matters to me. Let's move on. Kerrigan, what do we have him?
Kerrigan, the good thing about these set of mutators, there's no time pressure like as with there was with Void Rifts. So once Kerrigan pops out, there's all your power. She's relatively tanky, and then the main thing is when you can start getting those Omega Worms going because they serve as a tanking point. If your ally is on the ground, it will help regenerate their lives, make them more tanky, and then if your ally needs a place to duck out, they got Omega Worms all over the place that they can. Okay, it's like I can't handle being here either due to just they're not my polarity or I need to save my
Not my
army, let them
problem.
regenerate a little bit. Yeah. So it allows you to do that. And then the other thing, Kerrigan herself on P2 and P3, they got a lot of crowd control, or she provides a lot of crowd control. P2, the zap stun, even if it's not polarity, if it hits if the zap hits the other units, it'll stun them. If P3, the crushing grip, no matter if they're your polarity or not, as long as it's within the range of the crushing grip, it'll stun them. So that definitely can buy time for you or your ally to deal with the issues. I have her from A to B.
A to B. How about you, Zero?
However, in B, the crowd control is very right. What Evelyn said. Her units and Omega Worms tank a lot, assuming you're going ultras here. Because, yeah, I don't see what other unit you'd really make unless it's like a pure air comp where you need Mutalisks. Yeah, you can either go P2 and just crowd control with the zaps, or you can go P3 to stun them with the crushing grip and the barrel mobilization wave to just say bye to your half of the enemies.
I have
Yeah,
another
you also
question.
get. Go on.
Will the Zergling Shredding Claws help your ally damage the train if it's your ally's polarity? Like, can you still have your Zerglings attack the train when it's your ally's turn? Just so
I
they can
think
have the
so.
damage buff. Yeah, so that's probably something that will help, right?
Yeah, the
Anyway,
creep from Mega Worms also
creep
gives your
also.
you and your ally 30% extra attack speed,
Yes.
which is slightly better than Arcturus.
Yes.
Yeah, you give your ally insane mobility, assuming he's making ground units.
Yeah. Okay, so letter.
Letter, I have B.
Okay, both of you say B. Let's put Kerrigan in B. Prestige wise, which do we do? Anyone but the first one?
2 or 3.
2 or 3? Okay, that's fair.
Mhm.
Let us move on.
Yep.
Nova, where do we have him?
Nova, so trains won't be an issue, at least, because Liberators have really good DPS. I don't think they're really affected that much by evasive maneuvers either, unless it's an air comp, in which case you're probably worse off than usual. But even then, for the waves, you have an airstrike, so your half won't be an issue. She can't really support your ally that well, neither by tanking or just crowd control.
Defensive drones.
But she does have defensive drones, and she can micro your ally with the airlift, which I mean it's all right. I have her in B personally. Just she
B.
doesn't do anything too amazing.
If you say so. How about Eviling?
Yeah, pretty much the similar points that Zero made. I have Nova from A to B. I would definitely suggest P1 so you can get out more Liberators, you can get out more Ravens, more Banshees, and just go around the map and have at it. The Ravens are going to be very helpful because they can put down all the turrets and then let if it's not polarized for you, that they just catch aggro on that, buy time for your ally, then the healing drones that come out for the Ravens are going to be helpful for your ally. One thing that I would definitely like to key in on, Nova has a very significant way to help ally if it's just if there's a polarized unit that they're having trouble with defensive drones. And then the other aspect, the mobility. Yeah, you got airlift if ally is out of position just because he is chasing down a train that was leaving and needs to deal with you need him to deal with the attack wave, help them reposition with the airlift.
Yes.
A to B.
Okay. Both of you said B, let's put Nova in B. I actually had Nova in A for the reasons you listed, especially the ally get over here part, but that's not relevant. Let's put Nova in B. Prestige wise, you want the first one? Or the third one?
P1.
That's what I'd say.
P1.
Okay, first one. Yeah, Soldier of Fortune. Let us move on. Raynor, where do I have him?
Raynor, so not well known for tanking, but I think if you play it in a way, or I mean, if you get an Artanis ally, that would also be great. I have Raynor from B to C, similar to Han and Horner. I would actually suggest P1 or P3. I mean, if you got Guardian Shell, then you can kind of doesn't really matter. But yeah, if you don't have that, then yeah, P1 would definitely allow you to get your foothold, not lose hemorrhage too much units, build up your bioforce, and as we've mentioned before, there's no mutators here that buff the enemies. So you got a whole bunch of Marines that have high fire rates to help deal with evasive maneuvers, and once you get your critical mass of bile, pretty much taking down the trains is no problem for Raynor. Alternatively, you can go P3. There's no like I mentioned before, there's no time pressure on this, so you can get out your battle cruisers and just you have a good tankable army with mass battle cruisers, and just deal with that, and you're gonna get Hyperion out very
a lot. Frequently.
And the point defense drones are gonna help a lot for mitigating the damage to you and your ally.
Letter?
So B to C.
B to C. Zero, how about you?
I haven't been C. I wouldn't advise P1 here just because it's not very composition resistant. Like, if you get Reavers, you're just dead. In which case, I think P3 is just better. More consistent, at least. The early game will, of course, be worse, but the early game really is an issue here. 3 bunkers will just handle it.
Yeah.
After you have to somewhat be competent at macro just to get a decent amount of units out in time for the trains.
Wow.
But if you can manage that, it's not that bad. I haven't been. Yeah, he's of course not as good as the better commanders, but C, I think he
Okay.
fair for him.
So both of you have him in C, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Put Raynor in C. That's about right. Let's move on. Stetboy, where do we have him?
Stetmann. So yeah, this guy tanks. He tanks a lot. So yeah, he has a zone which pretty much gives your ally whatever he needs, whether it's healing for fights, movement speed for getting to fights, or energy if he's doing some weird build. Yeah, his units, mainly the Zerglings, will be in front, so they'll be tanking for your ally. It doesn't really matter if they die, because they just respawn at the spawning pool while buffing your hero unit. As for that hero unit will just wipe out your half of the enemies with the Egorb. You can overcharge your Statolites to give your ally even more tanking or attack speed if that's needed. I have him in A tier personally, mostly because he can't actually deny any enemies from. You don't. How do I say this? Hold on.
Yeah.
You can't get rid of Polarity enemies. That's why he's not S tier for me.
Okay. How about you, Eviling?
Yeah, I have. I mean, if I wasn't hard on uh, my principles, Stetmann would be S because, I mean, he has a hero that pretty much doesn't die, and when you get the Statolite spread out, overcharge, he doesn't die. Your units are really hard to kill, and your allies' units become really hard to kill. Even with just green zone, I mean, that constant energy, the constant health regen is just, yeah, it's wonderful. You could even, I think, you could probably even get away with P3 on this, no problem. It's he does he can handle most of what's going to be thrown in this mutator. He has the damage. He can have sustain, and the only thing is evasive maneuvers is annoying. But I mean, you got enough Zerglings running around. Even if you got stuff jumping around, it's like, oh, I jumped and I'm in the face of another Zergling. So yeah, A to B.
All right, A to B. So both of you have an A. Let's put him in A. Stukov, where do we have him?
I'm in an A.
Oh,
Put
sorry.
him in B.
Was that?
Yeah, there.
I was just checking if you were looking, yeah? Stukov, where do we have him?
Stukov, so it's going to be pretty straightforward for P3. Now, the thing is, can you get enough damage for trains? I think there's a caveat to this. Most Stukov players will just go mass bunkers, and that might not be enough to deal with the trains. Now, if you have mass bunkers with tanks or diamondbacks, something to supplement, make use of that, of your expo gas, so that your ally has that ability to micro his units to figure it out, rather than trying to set up his another gas supply for himself. Right, then it should be straightforward. But yeah, as I said, most random Stukov players only know how to make mass bunkers, and that's going to be very questionable if you're going to be able to make it through. But otherwise, competent Stukov player on P3, A to B.
A to B. How about you, Eviling? Or how about you, Zero?
I have him in B tier. You're definitely gonna want to add Diamondbacks at some point, whether that's early game to have a smoother one, or mid game to help with the trades. His top bar will be quite helpful, especially Alexander. I assume
Yeah.
you're just gonna go mastery for it to reduce the amount of damage mostly your allies' units take.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, the
So,
infested will provide a good amount of tanking, so I have him in B tier.
okay, both of you said B. Let's put Stukov in B. Prestige-wise, both of you seem to be okay with third prestige. Do I have that
Yeah.
right? Okay. Just add mech stuff. Just mech more stuff. Speaking of mech more stuff, Swann, where do we have him?
Swann, so he's a Karax, but a bad Karax. He's still a Karax though, so he's not terrible. I have him either like low B or high C. I'm not sure which one quite. Yeah, his turrets have lower range, so you're probably gonna have to put them on the low ground, which isn't ideal because your ally will have to move around slightly more, and they might get in the way. But apart from that, he should still be fine, mostly because his turrets are really tanky, especially if you go P2. They'll have a bunch of armor.
Okay, so you're saying B or C. How about you,
Yeah.
Eviling?
I have Swann from A to B. If you're playing P2, the added range from the prestige is going to be able to, you can keep all your turrets on the high ground, and if you run out of space, then okay, start building on the low ground. But you're gonna be able to nail it down pretty good. The only thing is, like, when the turrets hit the units on the low ground, they're gonna jump up to your stuff. So you may want to have some SCVs around, because I mean, the extinguisher upgrade and the armor upgrades for your turrets are gonna be good, but you may want to just supplement it with a few SCVs roaming around. And then in terms of damage to the trains, definitely suggest P2, because so you can have your concentrated beam and pulse cannon. P1 I think is not going to be the right call for this, because evasive maneuvers, your laser drill is going to spend a lot of time hopping between units.
Retargeting, yeah.
And that's just, yeah, so you kind of want to have those bursts, but don't use the bursts, their conch beam or pulse cannon on attack waves. Use it on the trains. That's where you're going to get the most mileage, because the trains don't hop around. Yeah, A to B.
Okay, both of you are okay with B. Let's put Swann in B. I also had Swann in B, by the way. But I was thinking actually more of Wraith action, because Wraiths do deal a lot of damage to the trains, and you can just defend at your ramp, and I think it'll be fine. But anyway, still B, so it's fine. Let's move on. Tychus, where do we have him?
The usual powerhouse he is. I think this one you can go with any prestige. Usually, if you're going with P2, you can face tank a whole lot of things, but usually with P2, you're not going out with a healer, or I mean you can, but usually most people don't play with healers. But again, you can be the powerhouse yourself, but if your ally is struggling, then having a healer would be helpful for their army. So that's why I say I would actually, if when this goes live, I'm probably gonna use either P1 or P3 Tychus. P3 for funsies, P1 for a little more serious to get it going, and then you can get Nikara or Rattlesnake out, and then that'll be a good buff for you and for your ally to weather the polarity aspects of it. And then another nice way to play it is, like, if you don't want to deal with evasive maneuvers, bring out Vega. It's like, okay, you're mine now. you're not going to be doing that hopping around crap anymore with me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I have them from A to B. Any prestige would be doable.
How about you, Zero?
Tychus is my second S tier contender. He can solo the trains that are his, including all the escorts. He has a great amount of like crowd control with the Tychus grenade that just stuns enemies for 2 seconds. He tanks a lot. He can, if it's a ground comp, he can slow down the attack speeds of the enemies with Blaze. Yeah, he just takes off so many enemies from her ally by soloing like half the mission.
And he does have fear too.
Yeah, that too.
All right.
In case anyone
You're in
know how
confusion.
to solo the trains, you sneak Sam to where the trains spawn, and then you just kill the trains as soon as possible. And that works for every single train that is yours. For some of the later ones, you may need to use the Odin for the nuke. But yeah, if you kill the train fast enough, the enemies will just stay there. They won't move to your base. So you just solos entire trains like that.
Very cool. So letter?
S tier.
S tier. So, are you convinced, Eveling?
As I said, no S this week, so A tier.
Alright.
I'm okay.
All right. So, not unanimous, therefore not S. So we'll move Tychus to A tier. Very sad times.
Yeah, he can do all that, but if ally is not doing his job, it don't matter.
That's true. Let's move on. Vorazun, where do we have him?
Vorazun, so she's my third S tier contender, but obviously she's not gonna end up there. The train bug with time stop means, you don't have to fight the train escorts. I think you only have to fight one train escort throughout the entire mission, which is just insane. She has a bunch of crowd control for your ally with the black hole. You can, if it's a ground comp, you can also just oracle them and stasis, and they won't be able to break out. Once they're hit, it's just a matter of time before your ally shoots them to death. Bunch of crowd control. She isn't really affected by any of the mutators. She has insane DPS for the trains. Yeah, I have her in S tier.
Okay, how about you, Eveling?
Yeah, Vorazun would have been my S tier also. She can do a lot to mitigate a lot of crowd control. Just a note, I I did try to experiment with Polarity to see if Vorazun P2, like you can lay down disruption webs, but if they're not your Polarity, the degen doesn't start acting
That's
on
bad.
non-polarized units. That would have been fantastic. That way you can kind of whittle non-polarized stuff down so that your eye can handle it. But
Yeah,
no, that's not
very
how
sad.
it likes to play. So definitely P3 is like, yeah, time stop on the trains. Now you have, I don't know if it was mentioned, but you can free. I mean, Zero did mention that you can freeze the units in place. So once the train spawns, you have a good window to pop time stop, and then once you pop it, the the escort ways just stay where they are. They don't follow the train, so you can kill the trains unhindered. Now, if you wait till the trains get to the midsection, okay, you've already missed your window. So as soon as you hear the notification, you have what, 10 seconds, 15 seconds before
Something like that.
to freeze the
Yeah,
in the place. Yeah,
yeah. Okay,
and then
okay. So both of
A
you,
to B.
well, not both of you, not the animus, therefore not S,
Yeah,
but it's A.
yeah.
It's very A, solid A. Zagara, where do we have him?
Zag. So with a good amount of mastery points in evasion for your Zerglings, they can handle a good amount of fire directed at them. So she has, I mean, just throwing a whole bunch of units at the enemy that serves as distraction, so it allows your ally to do what they need to do. Kind of like what you mentioned earlier uh, with Kerrigan, if you have like your train is non-polarized, force the Zerglings to attack the train so that they have their shredding claws, debuffing the train, and also I know for sure corruptors, their corruption spell doesn't matter if it's yours or your allies. You click corruption on the train and it will debuff it. So that will definitely help ally to take down the train quicker than usual.
Letter.
In terms of prestige, I would say either P1 or P2.
Letter.
So P1 is just gonna shoot out all the bodies. P2 makes you a little more tanky. I would say B to C.
B to C. How about you, Zero?
I have her in B tier. I think you're just gonna go P2 here, just so the frenzy affects your ally, and also the aberrations tank a lot. They also have great train
Exactly.
DPS. Yeah, the as for the banelings, if you were to go aver prestigious, they wouldn't be as effective because the units would just teleport away from each other, and also polarity would mean the radius doesn't quite cover as much as it would without polarity. So the single target of aberrations is actually really nice here. Yeah, I have her in B tier.
Okay, B tier it is, because both of you are okay with B. Prestige twice. First one or second one?
Two, I think.
Second one.
I
Okay.
like the choice of second one. Yeah.
Okay. Let's move on. Zeratul, where do we have him?
Zeratul, so he's my fourth S tier, but yeah, he's not gonna be there sadly. Yeah, he has a lot of tanking with the Avatar. I believe the Avatar has like so what is it, like 70-80% uptime, so he is gonna be there a lot. His units will just completely obliterate his half of the wave, and then the Avatar will demote the other half, and that resets the polarity. So if you leave it there for enough time, you could solo waves, or at least reduce them to such an amount that your ally really won't have to fight a lot. On top of that, the Avatar also gives your ally an insane buff that will be up most of the game. So as long as you guys stick together, even if your ally just barely produces units, you're completely fine here, which is why I have him in S tier.
Okay. How about you, Ibrahim?
Yeah, pretty much Zeratul is a good powerhouse to help buff ally, provide enough. I mean, if you're going cannons, it provides a hell of a lot of distractions to kind of keep ally alive, and especially if you're dealing with Terran, you got cannons all over the place, so it helps with the ghost issues, at least for detection issues. I mean, if the ghost is nuking your allies not dealing with it, you can detect the ghost all you want, and nothing's gonna happen.
Alright.
But yeah, no complaints. A to B.
A to B. So both of you are okay with, well, not A to B. Zero had up an S. So
Yeah.
it's not the MS, therefore it's not S. So down to A goes Zeratul. Okay, so no double S, obviously. Who's top of S? Who's top of A tier?
Vorazun?
Vorazun?
Maybe Arcturus? I think Vorazun helps a lot more.
Really?
Maybe slightly more.
More than literally stopping every single wave?
Well, you don't have to fight the train escorts with Vorazun. Arcturus will still.
You can still contaminate
Yeah,
strike them.
because even you still contaminate strike them, but they do follow the train escorts. It's like the fear only makes them run around, but they have how their AI is coded is like even if they get feared, they're still gonna follow the train once the fear wears off. So you're just gonna have to keep on fearing them. Whereas Vorazun, the time stop breaks their AI pretty much. It's like, oh, okay, we're just here. We're gonna hang out here. Okay, bye train.
Okay, so who's top of A?
Vorazun.
Vorazun? Okay. And then
Arcturus.
Arcturus, then
Tychus.
and then
Zeratul.
alright. So the S tier candidates. Sorry?
I'd say Stetmann over. I would say Stetmann over Phoenix.
Step over
Yeah, I think
Phoenix.
Stetmann next.
Oh wait, where does Dehaka fall then?
Well,
think
he's
Dehaka's
fine
below
where he is. I
Stetmann.
think.
He's fine where he is. Okay. So
Oh,
who's
below
top?
Stetmann?
Sorry.
I won't argue that. Zero said Dehaka below Stetmann. Yeah, I won't argue that.
I think Step
Yeah, I think the
is
healing is just
yeah.
too helpful.
that helpful. So who's top of B?
The
Karax? Kerrigan?
Kerrigan is
Me-
awful.
yeah, Abathur is also really good once you get past the early game.
Early game is a thing though, but again, that's why they're B. Nova?
Yeah.
You guys think Nova?
No, Nova.
Nova or Kerrigan?
Nova or
I think
Kerrigan?
just Kerrigan.
Alright. And then
Either Nova or Abathur.
which one? I think Nova
I'm
definitely.
inclined to go with Nova first because there's no early game issues.
Yes.
Yeah, that's fair.
And
Then
then I would put Karax over
Karax, yeah.
Karax
yeah.
over
Karax. Karax then Swann.
Then Zagara, probably.
Yeah.
okay.
Then Stukov, Alarak.
Stukov, Alarak. Okay. Who's top of C?
And then just
Artanis,
caveat. Remember, or I just want to say, remember Zagara has bio launchers for trains too. So like makeshift ESOs.
Kind of. They're a lot shorter range though,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
your mileage may vary, literally. The mileage is 25. Anyway. Who's top of C?
Yeah. Artanis, I think.
Artie?
For the buffs he gives to your ally.
Okay. And then
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. Raynor, maybe?
Uh,
I don't know. They're both terrible.
that's okay.
They're all regards.
Yeah, that's why they're
they're C.
Hey,
Alright, so order's fine.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. So
Yeah.
do we have
Yeah.
combinations of commanders B or below who together would be an S tier?
I mean, it's all about what kind of ally you have.
Yeah. So S tier for me is Skype, Discord, Blizzard chat, any voice chat. If you have a phone, like if your allies on the phone, call them. Anything, any voice chat will
If you
do.
guys are playing next to each other.
Yeah, if you're playing next to each other, that'd be great too. So that's my S tier, playing with voice. So that'll be this week's tier list, guys. Hope you enjoyed that. Thank you for watching. If you have an idea for it, also, please leave it in a comment. I'll see you guys next time.